We all know about the 1997 series Key and the Hill. It is still airing on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim block, but I encountered something dark with this series sometime in late 2007. I was in a Goodwill store buying some N64 games because that store normally had a good stock of retro games. However, I strolled over to the VHS section in the back, just remembering that I owned a VCR. One of the first things I saw was the Titanic VHS tapes, the one that came in two tapes, but it was in one dust cover. I thought that would be a good movie for me and my wife, as she had never seen it before. To ensure that the tape would be functional, I took one of the tapes out of the dual VHS dust cover, only to see something unexpected. It was a VHS tape with a crooked sticker on it, written in Sharpie was KOTHS1E1NR. I expected the other tape. It said KOTHS1E1NRP2. I assumed it was part 2. I did not know why a 122 to 23-minute episode took 2 VHS tapes, but I was curious. I bought the tapes for $2.22. When I got home, nobody was there but me. Therefore, I had to take out the painstaking process of calling the stiff coax cables and the bulky VCR. I soon tuned to the TV to channel 3 and began viewing KOTHS1E1NR. It had the regular opening of the first episode of The King of the Hill, but without the music. It was just a silent camera panning over the city of Arlen. It began normally after that, with Bobby at a baseball game and Hank yelling at him. As we all know, Bobby did not succeed. This is where things started getting weird. On the ride home, Hank, Peggy, and Bobby were completely silent. This went on for about 3 minutes. No one was angry, no one had any expression actually. Abruptly, as the family pulls into the driveway, it cut to a scene inside the house. Hank was yelling at Bobby for not giving the 110%. Hank then picked up the baseball and got into a throwing position. At this point, the video quality was getting very scraggly and the volume level was raised roughly 10%. Hank pegged the ball and hit Bobby's nose. Peggy was seen in the background crying, and Hank simply told her to shut the hell up. Bobby immediately cupped his nose and ran out of the room, crying the whole way. As Bobby was in the bathroom checking his nose, a social worker came to the door. Peggy greeted him as Hank sat on the sofa, relaxed as if nothing happened. From this point, the covers began to look more like the real episode. The scene with Hank telling the social worker off played as it did in the real episode. Suddenly, the scene from the official aired episode, which I've never seen, was not from the real episode. It was a scene of a more ragged video, yet the audio remained the same. This scene depicted Peggy sitting on the phone late at night, most likely contacting child services and telling them how Hank purposely threw the baseball at Bobby. Hank suddenly walked through the doorway. He was in a bathrobe and had no glasses. He grabbed the phone. "Who the hell is this?" Hank yelled. "This is the Department of Child Services," was the response. Hank's face quickly turned red and slammed the phone back on the wall. He grasped Peggy by the neck. "You gonna get more of those twig boys over here to put me in prison and take my boy away?" he howled. The scene cut to Hank taking Peggy by the back of the neck down the hallway to the backyard. Hank took a propane tank off the grill and shoved the valve in Peggy's mouth. The video then went silent for a minute, simply showing the propane valve in Peggy's mouth. When the scene started moving again, Peggy's eyes slowly closed and the voice was heard. "Buck Strickland, forgive me for using propane for this." The only problem was that when Hank said this, Hank did not even sound like Mike Judge, the creator of the show who voiced Hank. It sounded like an older and deeper voice. The screen went black after this. I fast forward through the rest of the tape to make sure there was no more content on it. There was none. I just thought to myself, why so much wasted space? And at this point, I was really shaken up. I went to grab a coffee. When I got back, I popped it in the second tape. It was just a black screen. I fast forwarded to check for content and eventually came across some stuff that was really starting to scare me. It was a funeral, but there was very few colors. There was only various forms of gray and black, and the color of people's faces. It just did not seem like a real King of the Hill episode. The funeral was for Peggy, attending with all the Hill's neighbors, including some acquaintances such as Cotton and John Redcorn. Even Hank was there, claiming that Peggy had committed suicide. Peggy's coffin was lowered into the hole. It faded into an overview of it being loaded. This part really scared the shit out of me. It was a somewhat realistic image of Peggy in the coffin. The reason why I say somewhat is because it looked real, but it still appeared to be drawn, not a real person. It was just a realistic cartoon. The scene then cut to Bobby, Hank, and Ladybird sitting on a porch. Bobby had a queasy face, and Hank had one hand on the propane tank that he used to commit the murder. Bobby turned to his father. "Why did you do that, Dad?" he asked in a humble voice. "I don't know, son," Hank responded. He almost sounded like he was crying. He then stood up and walked inside, leaving Bobby and Ladybird, who were still on the porch. And once again, got to a very dull scene of nothing but black, gray, and the skin colors. It was a scene that would literally made me sick to my stomach. It was Hank hanging from the ceiling with a note pinned on him. It just stayed focused on him swinging back and forth for 2 minutes or so. And then it got to the ending credits with the normal outro and theme music. It was actually kind of laughing on the inside, the fact that the show was playing the regular ending credits after all that stuff happened. I was really more confused and creeped out at it. I went to forums but found nothing about the episode. However, I came across someone on Yahoo Answers who has similar recurrence as me. They received a similar tape at the thrift shop in Johns Creek County in North Georgia, a place about 20 miles away from where I got mine. I managed to get on A with this person, but I got no answers. I was really curious at this point, so I drove 40 miles to went right down to Cartoon Network, turning for broadcasting high quality. I knew that Fox Broadcasting made the show. I assumed Cartoon Network had every episode on record as they aired them all. Beforehand, I did some research and figured out who was in charge of broadcasting King of the Hill. So I found a receptionist in the studio and demanded to talk to him. Apparently, though, I needed a guest pass of some sort. I was completely pissed off at this point, so I drove back home and put on my old sheriff's uniform. I went back, and although it was unlawful, I used my badge to talk to him. When I got into his office, he was just sitting at his desk talking on the phone. I walked up to him, threw the tapes on his desk, and demanded answers. He dropped the phone and immediately grabbed the tapes, but followed him to the other office on the other side of the building. There was a small safe in his office. He opened it up, put the tapes in, and locked it. He then told me to leave. I did not want to act like a sheriff anymore because I did not want to get into trouble with the law. So I left. I got home, flipped on the TV. The Ultimate was on. I was waiting to see a real episode of King of the Hill. To this day, there are only 2 copies of this episode on 4 tapes that I can find anything about on the internet. One of them, I assume, is still locked up with Cartoon Network Studios. You may come across more of them in thrift shops throughout the Southeast.